Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, my guest today, I am so excited to get him on today. This is going to be so much fun. He has had quite the journey for sure, from having a son at 16 to going into foster care and then 6 million in sales in 2021 alone. And I know he's done great things since that time. So I am so excited to get him on. Him and his wife are some of the most successful entrepreneurs in this country. And I know he's going to have a lot of great things to share with us. But before I do that, I got to welcome our sponsors and give a shout out to our sponsors. I should say shout out. That sounds better. All right. So today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, promotion, Walt is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about Walt and his work, you want to go to photosbywalt.com. We also want to give a shout out to Chris Clow of Upbeat Media Productions. If you are in need of turnkey special event production, Clow is your go-to. To learn more about him and his work, you want to go to upbeatmediapro.com. All right. That was a mouthful, Cameron. Sometimes I get that thing so perfect, and then sometimes I just go right over my words, and it's like, whatever, we do the best we can. Anyway, so for my audience, Kamron Engler is the CEO of Engler Enterprise. He's a real estate agent out of North Georgia. He's done over 9 million in sales in 3 years, starting with nothing. He's been featured on various podcasts, including the Money Is Show with Andrew Cordle. So we are so excited to welcome him here to the show today. So welcome, Kamron. So excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I like that intro. I think that's the best one I've had.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of the whole show is intros. Everybody laughs. My ex co-host that used to be on the show with me, we're still great friends, but she used to always joke. She'd say, Jennifer's gift is the intro. I'm like, if you need me to be an MC and do like a killer intro for you at an event, like I'm your person. I've got it down.
Heck yeah.
Isn't that funny? So it's all this, I don't know if I shared this with you. I was in Mary Kay for many, many years. And so we would go to these events, and because I was in leadership, I had to go to like a lot of events. And so we always had somebody emceeing the events, and we had to, as leaders and even the consultants, we had to get really good at preparing our own accolades. Like we had to have our bios prepared. So I didn't know how to do that. And so I had to learn how to do that. And so the fun thing about that is I'm able to take all of you guys, take your information, and then I can kind of craft things together from that. Like, what are the things people need to hear about you that's going to sound really, really good?
Yeah. So yeah, that was great.
Awesome. All right. Well, I want to open this thing up now that we talked about that. I want to talk a little bit about your story, kind of like where you're at right now. What are you doing, and how are you making a difference right now?
Yeah. So we've kind of went from selling real estate. We're still doing it. And now we're starting to work on, rather than just the sales side, being able to help the people in sales. So we're starting to work on something where we're going to kind of like an education platform. And then also, I'm making the transition into the investing side as well. I have another business, Engler Capital. We're basically creating a real estate fund for investors, and then we're going to go buy some multifamily real estate together. So that's kind of where we're going right now.
That's fun. I know several people doing that. I had a guy on my show. Oh my goodness, it was probably about a month ago. He is actually a physician that went into real estate, and his whole basic platform is to teach doctors that they can have another income. And he does kind of that thing. It's investing. And he sort of created kind of the same thing. He went in with I think 3 guys, and they created this firm, and he's sort of educating now on how in the medical community, educating them to have this other side of their career. So, and I know several people here that do that. And so I think that from watching them, it's fun. I mean, looking at them and seeing what they're doing with it. And I'm kind of dabbling into some things. I'm working with a mentor. And so I'm kind of dabbling into some things, not in the real estate, so to speak, but kind of in the investment side of things. So it's an interesting thing for sure.
Yeah. I think it allows you to get into rooms and be around people that normally you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's what
think,
I love about it.
yeah, yeah, which I think that right there, there leads into a really good discussion because, you're probably finding, and you guys are so young, which I think is so incredibly cool about what y'all are doing, is because where you're at right now and the massive amount of just not impact legacy and just your life, like what you can create between now and the next, like 20 years or so,
Yeah,
you're in such a great position. But I think it's so fun that, like, you're probably noticing, and you just said, is that as you continue to grow and do different things, you get in the room with different people that, sometimes you have to pinch yourself and say, like, gosh, like, 3, 4, 5 years ago, would I imagine being in that space with those particular people?
yeah. That's definitely something that we've experienced and we continue to experience. 5 years ago, if you would have told me that I would be living where I'm at right now, I'd be like, no, that's I don't know if that's for me. I know it's possible, but not for me.
Right.
So it is kind of cool just being around and seeing what, especially people that are further ahead and seeing what they're doing and like learning from them. Okay, this guy drives around in a Ferrari as a daily driver. What does he do?
Right. You're
And then
curious,
that's
like, what are they doing that they're getting to do that, right?
yep, yep.
That's awesome. Well, tell us, because our audience doesn't know you. I've gotten to look into your work and what you're doing. And I think your story is so impressive, you and your wife, again, because I've said you're young and your background, but tell us a little bit about, so they kind of know where you came from to where you are now.
Yeah, so very, very humble beginnings. Uh, grew up in a small town. The population there is like, if you Google it, it's 1,800 people. So, and the mindset there is kind of like it, life ends at the county line.
Hmm.
That's kind of what it is. So, grew up watching people. Basically, the only options is construction, or you go work at a chicken plant, or you go to college if you
Okay.
want to actually be wealthy. So, grew up believing that. Um, my parents, they worked all the time, but they just could not figure out the money thing. Um, so I watched them, and I was very observant as a as a kid, and so I watched them, go through life struggling, and eventually they ended up turning to drugs that they since have divorced, my mom and dad, and basically I just watched them, not be able to deal with life just because, in my opinion, just because they couldn't figure out the money thing. Um, and so I grew up watching that. Uh, my dad ended up getting real bad. They were doing it together. He goes to jail right at the same time that I figure out that where me and my wife are having our son at
Wow.
16.
Yeah.
Literally a couple days later, um, because he had gotten arrested, and then my mom had been arrested too. So a couple days later, DFAC shows up at our school, and we have no clue. We're walking to the bus, and then this guy in a suit says, "Hey, you guys need to come with us." We're like,
Mm.
what?
Yeah.
And anyway, so they don't really tell you anything if you go into foster care. They don't give you any information. For all you know, you could be like human trafficking, like
Really?
this strange guy just comes and picks you up. And anyway, go into foster care. But thankfully, uh, a foster parent that I went to, at first we went to somebody, we had like four kids all together, me, my brother, and my younger siblings. Um, so they tried to do it all, but they couldn't. So after about a month, we went to somewhere else and they split us up. But thankfully, the second person that I went to, um, it's almost a similar story to that rich dad poor dad thing.
Yeah.
He was a retired lawyer, had a very good law career, and nice house. And I came from like the trailer park. And so whenever I moved there, I think it kind of let me experience like, okay, this is real. This is actually a thing that you can get to. And I think that's kind of where
Ah,
me figuring out that I could do something. I mean, I always wanted to, but actually believing that I could, um, I think it came from there. But then I go to college because I think that's the only way in North Dakota. My wife is still here in Georgia with our son. And I get up there, it ends up not working out. I mean, I played football, but if you're that far away, for a long period of time, like, and family means a lot to me. So
sure.
I ended up coming back because the coach, he sold me a bunch of lies that ended up not working out. I come back, did construction with my dad. My dad had cleaned up his, stuff by then. And anyway, I was working that, and I was making like $230 a week,
Wow.
working all the time.
Yeah.
And I asked him one day, I said, Dad, I want to help grow this thing. Like, whatever I need to do. And he told me, he said, son, I've been doing this like almost 20 years. You're never going to make more than me until I die. And then I Googled what's the highest paying jobs: real estate, insurance, and something else for not having a college degree.
Yeah.
And that's what I got into. So.
Oh my goodness. Wow, you gave me chills when you were telling that story. Wow, wow. It's interesting because, well, to say a couple of things, my husband came from a really small town in Montana, so I think there's 1,000 people in their entire county.
Yeah.
Like 72 miles from his town, they had like those schools where there was like one school for everybody. I mean, that's how rustic it is out there. And for many years, like when we would drive from Alzada to Ekalaka, that 72 miles, it was a gravel road, like the whole seven. And like when they started paving it, it was like a long process to pave that road. So I say all that to say, I understand kind of the sort of the, you got to get out. Like he went to engineering school. He went to Rapid City, went to engineering school and then ended up in Texas. That's where I met him, down here. So I get kind of that, I guess maybe the culture of the small town way a little bit. I didn't grow up I grew up in the big city. So I understand that. But your story is so like compelling to me because, this is a situation where, when I listen to your story and I think, oh my gosh, because, what's making me think about right now in some ways is JD Vance's Hillbilly Elegy thing, where like you get trapped in like the family stuff and you have to pull yourself out. And I always joke about that with mine because it was nothing like yours. But I say when I was growing up, it was like the same thing. We were never encouraged to go off to college. Like we were just like, we stayed close to home. Like, when I moved from Houston to Dallas, my mom was like freaking out. I only moved like 240 miles because family doesn't leave. Like we don't do that, is stuff. So that's what was coming to mind when you were telling me that. But your story is just, I think, so powerful, to see this transformation of having, in this environment, be able to take that and really move into something. And then to do 9 million in sales in like this 3 years, like you've turned your complete life around. So I just want to applaud you for that because I think it's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride for sure.
Yeah, it's so awesome. It's so awesome. What do you feel like, like I love this that you just went on the computer and listen, when I coach clients and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of in that phase where they feel stuck, but they don't really know why. And we all know that the common denominator is us. It's all the belief system, right? It's what we believe about ourselves and what we deserve and all that stuff, and so what do you feel like for you? Because I feel like we make those changes when we get pinned against a wall. What do you feel like has been the attributing, thing to your success? What do you feel like it's been that thing that you possess?
So I can remember all the way back, even whenever, I'm like 5, 6, 7 years old. I have always had a vision of me being successful. Now, whenever I was younger, I believed the only way to get there was through sports
Mm.
because that's all that I had believed, all that I had seen, all that had been preached to me. So I grew up working really hard towards football because I believed that was my only way to get there. And from the outside looking in, people were like, "Oh, he really loves football. Oh, wow, that must be his dream." That really wasn't my dream. My vision was success, having, helping a lot of people. I've always wanted to do that, and leaving a legacy, making a lot of money. And so I've always had that desire, like vision, whatever. I don't know what, something within telling me to do
Mhm.
that. And whenever I noticed, in construction that it was pretty much dead end. You're gonna 10 years before you even make 1,000 a week, more than 1,000 a week. I was like, I'm out. I'm out. Because in my family, nobody lives more than like 60 years old. So
You should be laughing about that. You're gonna be past that.
I hope so.
Yeah, you will. There's so much that goes to that. I say the longevity that we live. There's a lot of factors that play into that, right? It's not always just about the health part of things. There's
Yeah,
a lot that
yeah.
goes on in your life. You're already
Yeah,
on the right path because you're figuring out there's more to this than just living mediocre life and just surviving in life, right?
right.
I love it. I love it. So good. So good. So what I want to know, because you guys you're a team and you got kiddos at home. So what do you feel like the juggling part of all of this? Like, how do y'all make this work? Because you guys are successful and that means you're out there and you're making things happen. And I know what it's like to work with little ones. All mine are adults now. So I'm at that phase now where I'm not quite empty nester because they're still coming in and out the door, but they're functioning and they can drive themselves and get where they need to
Yeah.
go. What do you feel like is like the thing that you guys have to do to make this all work for you guys?
Yeah. So working together definitely comes with its challenges. But I mean, the thing that I feel like we do, we just work. Uh, there are no secrets. We talk about everything together. If one of us has an issue with something, we bring it up, and we figure it out. And then as far as like balance, like a work-life balance, we don't really have that. I mean, we're constantly pushing towards the vision. And, some days I'm spending more times with the kids, some days she is. A lot of times I'm working at 11 o'clock at night and, she's hanging out with the kids, handling that stuff. But, we've both kind of talked about it. And, for us to get to where we want to go, it's kind of just a decision that we made that it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think to your point, I always hate the word balance anyways. I say
yeah,
harmony. I tell my people, forget the balance thing. Cause when you think about balance, you think about a scale, right? You think about all things being equal. And really there's nothing in life that's like that, right? There's a give and take for everything we do.
yeah,
And so as an entrepreneur that has, in your kind of to your point, I've been an entrepreneur when mine were little. I started when my oldest is now 26. She was 2. And then I had 2 more children in the middle. So that's all they've really seen. And so I've had to juggle it. So I get it. So I think you do. You just learn to find the harmony. You figure out what works. But I think the cool thing is that the work ethic that they learn watching you guys do this is so freaking powerful. Do you know what I mean? Like when I
yeah,
was at Mary Kay, I just remember us always saying, more is caught than taught, more is caught than taught. And you will be surprised, Kamron. I've heard my kids, like they don't do it in front of me, but I've heard how they deal with other people, like the conversations that they've had, the languaging, because, like earlier, when I asked you, like, what do you attribute to your success? You talked, what I heard from you is that you're visionary, you're a dreamer. So that's what I heard from you, is that you think big picture. Okay. I think big picture. Drives people crazy sometimes because they think their heads are in the clouds, right? I always say we're practical. We just don't sit and dwell in junk. We decide we're going to rise out of that. So a lot of the stuff I learned in that network marketing space in those 23 years that I was in there was how to be a big thinker, because I didn't grow up in a family where we thought big. Like, we were always like, nah, why are you going to do that? That's stupid. I wouldn't do that. Right. And so I had to come out of that and get into this other space. My kids learned that watching me. And I think every day, had I not taken that step and moved into that space, I needed that at the time that I did, because at that time that I did that, I was shy, I was negative, I was cynical, I was in a very bad place. Had I not taken that leap and moved into that space, my kids would have never known what it's like to have seen that side of life. Do you know what I mean? To be witness to, you can dream, you can go after things you want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think there's so much, we could go forever on just on what you just said. There's so much there to unpack, but I think you guys are doing an awesome thing. And I think as long as you guys are working that out and you're like, hey, this is what we're shooting for, and we talk and ebb and flow this thing, that's the way it goes, right?
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And for us, I mean, it's like because she comes from, not as crazy of a background, but she comes from humble beginnings too. So, I mean, for us, we would rather sacrifice a little bit of time right now so that our kids don't have to deal with it and just be done with it. Yeah. I would pay the price today so they don't have to deal with it tomorrow.
Yeah, you're setting a new legacy. I love it. You've switched you've turned it, like you've turned it a different direction. And I think that's what it's all about was, when you mentioned earlier about creating legacy and making a lot of money. And I think we know that creating the money comes when we create legacy, when we're able to impact other lives, that's when when it flows in. People get hung up on the money side of things a lot of times, and they go the wrong way to approach this. And then they sit in this stuck spot. And it's when you make that shift. It's funny. I don't know if I shared with you, but this program I'm building out, I've been talking a lot about obliquity and the indirect path to success, and doing like the unscalable, and people, you either get it or you don't get that. You either see that as the way you build a legacy, or you just don't get it at all and you stay stuck. And so you can't unpack that for people.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people, they're just, I think the people that we grow up around, it took me forever to be like, I'm going to question what my dad says, like, or everybody that I grew up around, yeah. or even trust a person on YouTube more than I trust my family, I think that's a huge barrier for people, especially they don't know anything else. No one else in their family has ever done it. So.
Yeah. And you said something there. I had a guy that came on my show, another one. I remember, like, everybody that comes on my show, I remember little nuggets, things that they've talked about. And there was another guy that came on my show that was talking about that very thing, about as you continue to grow, your friends change and evolve. So, and I've always said this, like, your circle gets smaller, right? Like, it starts getting, as you go up, and you'll notice, like, people that you used to be friends with, you may not necessarily, you don't dislike them any longer. You're still okay with those people, but you realize the conversations change and your needs change, and you start having to center yourself around other people. Like you were mentioning in the beginning about the investors, putting yourself in different spaces. You have to have different conversations because you're growing. And so that circle starts to change. And one of the things he talked about is having to deal with family, like when you go back to deal with family and you're in this space, and then you realize you have to go in that space. And one of the things I've been working with this mentor I learned this year is about, that's really big. And I don't know if you've studied on this yet, but it might be something fun for you to look into, is the adult stages of development. The adults, how we have kids, adults have them too. Once you learn it, you can't look back. Like, once you know it, you know it. And it's so funny because now when you look at it,
you recognize that in your day-to-day activities, you will go up and down depending on the people you're talking to. If you're talking to family, colleagues, customers, like you will start recognizing where these people fit in. And when you start to get frustrated, it's usually because you're having to shift around in these different stages and you're not liking the stage you're having to sit in right now. And that's what I always say. When I'm starting to get frustrated around somebody, I'm recognizing, okay, what's going on here? And then I have to go, okay, I need to remove myself. Like I need to get out of this conversation and exit the door.
That's so true. Heck, to add to that, like, there's some people now that I've grown up with that will not, they don't, because not because I don't want to be around them. I'm like, sure, let me help you out. Right. But they, like, as you progress and you learn more and you start hanging around different people, maybe you start speaking a little differently. Mm-hmm. Some people that you want to help, they're like, they don't want to come with you.
Right.
They don't even want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something we've noticed. Heck, there's people in our family, I'm like, hey, let's hang out. They don't even want to come around because they just are so into that lifestyle. They just, I don't know, almost like being around something different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it makes them feel less than, if it makes them feel, I don't know. But
yeah. I've noticed that too in some capacity with people too. And I do think it, we're not psychologists here. We can't everybody, right? But I do think there is some truth to that idea that maybe they feel uncomfortable, right? They can't bring something to the table, but they don't know how to articulate. You and I would know how to articulate that more so because we're self-aware, but they're not. A lot of people are not really self-aware about their own feelings and their emotions and all that. So they don't even know why they feel that way. You know what I mean? A lot of times they just know this person's having success and I'm irritated about it. And I don't really know why I'm irritated about it. And really it has nothing to do with you, Kamron. It's them. It's their issue, right? Like I'm over here looking at you and thinking, you guys are incredible. Like, I love it, man. This makes
let's hang out. Yeah,
exactly. Like, but I'm the same way you are too. It's like, when I run into a friend that I haven't seen in a long time, like I'm friends with everybody unless you give me a reason not to be your friend. And I don't care where you come from. Yeah. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to treat you with respect. We may not hang around each other every day because our conversations aren't going to be the same type of conversation, right? Doesn't mean I don't like you, And so I understand. I don't like to say I know how you feel, but I can understand where you're coming from on that because I have recognized some of that. And I think that's a universal thing. I hear that from a lot of other people in successful positions. So I think you're good. So you just keep doing your thing. I want to know one more question I want to ask you. So actually I got two more advice to somebody, a young entrepreneur. I know y'all's story is different, but there are a lot of young entrepreneurs and they're up and rising. I think there's so many cool things about you young guys that are, you young people that are coming up. You bring different things to the entrepreneur space. So maybe any advice for somebody starting out in that space?
So number one, never give up on your dream, no matter what. But number two, just pay the price, in order to progress, like I've always had to sacrifice something, whether it be time with family, money, or going out on the weekends. Maybe you can't spend, you can't go to the zoo, you can't go to the aquarium, you can't go to the party. I would encourage, if you truly want success, if you want to better your situation, maybe sacrifice those things today so that later you can do those things all the time and don't lose the dream in the process.
Yeah, it's powerful. Have the discipline and stay focused on the dream, right? I love it. So true. So true. So many people, that's where they struggle. They have the big idea, but actually putting that into action and staying true to it, right, is where it gets tricky. That's what I help people try to work on. Stay focused on the most important thing, right? What do we need to be focusing on right now? Let the rest go. It's so funny because I don't know if you're like this, but I feel like, Kamron, every day, or maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe every other day or every few days, I feel like somebody's hitting me up. Either they're selling me something or pitching me a business opportunity. And I'm like an idea I'm a two-time person. I love opportunity. I love opportunity, and I love coming up with ideas, thinking about things like how can we make something out of something. And so I feel like people pick up on that vibe, and they're like, got a business opportunity. Let's go run it by Jennifer. I've had to, Cameron, I would go through and I would feel obligated to answer all these people. I would go through and be like, let me say no to this person. I have just gotten to the point now where I have set these priorities in place, and I have these conditions. And if you just spam me in my inbox and say, I have an opportunity I want you to look at, I'm just not even going there. I'm not even going to waste my energy on this. I am working on something. I'm staying focused on what I need to be doing. I know where I'm headed. The rest of the stuff is distractions. It's just, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So
yep. I've experienced that too. And I think it is maybe we just dream so big. Everybody's like, let's run.
They're like, he's good at what he does. Let's talk to him. Like, you're not busy you're already creating and manifesting your stuff, you know? And one thing that I always say, Cameron, and I don't know, maybe you probably agree with this, but I always feel like we all have something great to offer, but we have to get really good at asking questions of other people, because what we have, they may not even want right now. And if we're forcing what we have on them when they're not open to it, it's really just unsolicited junk, right? They don't care.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, I've even started, even with the people I will talk to daily, like colleagues, people that I network with. I've even stopped replying to them if it's a basic message, I'm not responding. Yeah. And that has created just that alone, along with, if you're spamming me. And you don't give me some, I want you to, if you're going to spam me with an opportunity or a question, just ask it. Not, hey, can I pick your brain? And we go, just ask me the question.
Don't be direct. Well, and there needs to be some context. You're going to laugh. I say this about the podcasting world, because people want to come on your show, and I go in and I try to find people that have unique stories, because I'm looking for people with depth and they're self-aware. And it's so funny. The other day I was having to explain, I went into the studio and I had two people come in. So one episode was somebody, and then the other ones came and they got to meet. And I said, it's so weird because all my guests are always awesome. And I said, I had to explain to somebody one day, what is it about all the people that I bring on my show? Because they're all very, very different. And I think there's parts of them that resonate with me on some level. It's either that they have incredible discipline or tenacity, but I figured out what it is about every single person, because I don't care who they are, where they came from. I don't even care what they do half the time. It's that they're conscientious. They have some level of self-awareness about how they conduct their selves and their business. And it all starts to me in the very first communication, in the very beginning. And so I say context matters. And so, when people are engaging with you, when they send you these stupid messages about hey, I have an opportunity, or hey, how's business going? To me, that's all fluff and dandy. You would actually make me more happy if you'd go on my podcast and you'd say, hey, I listened to episode so-and-so with Kamron Enger. He's got a really good story. And I like what he was talking about, the other day about having, being focused on his vision. That tells me you took some time to actually investigate who I am and what I do.
Yep.
I listen to you. I might actually listen to what you have to say, but people don't take the time to do that. They just spam you. And I guess it works somewhere. It just probably ain't working with you and I.
I don't know if it's working with anybody worthwhile. I don't know.
Probably not. Probably. We just went off on that's a whole lesson for this show. You don't get anything out of this show. Dream, persist, and quit spamming people, right?
Yeah.
So good. All right. One last question I want to ask you, Kamron. What have you learned about yourself in this journey? I know you've learned a lot, and you've kind of displayed it in this whole episode, but tell me, what do you feel like you've learned in this journey?
Man, I've learned a lot. I think the biggest thing is I believe that we all have limitless potential. I think some of us are born with, a different, you're further up the line than other people. But, whether you capitalize on that or not, it's up to you. And I don't believe that anybody will ever actually reach their full potential either. But I think that's what life is about. It's just trying to max out what you got.
Yeah. Try to figure it out, right? We know we can't. That's why I'll say personal development is a journey. And I think the biggest thing I feel like in my personal life for me is that the day you stop trying to improve yourself and learn, I think is really kind of a sad day, right? When you get to that place where you go, I'm just done learning, because I think even when you're beyond, you can still be learning something, like whether you're reading or I don't know, maybe you go back and learn a language, or I don't know. I feel like we can all continue to just keep growing, and so that's good.
Yeah, I agree. I told my wife, I was talking to her last night because I was studying like some old school marketing, some of the like old school guys that nobody talks about. And I told my wife, I said, whenever we like really make it, I don't know what that is, what making it is, but whenever I really get there, I think I'm just going to I'm going to read Socrates, Plato, all these other, like, just keep learning.
Yeah. Sounds fun. All right. Well, this has been great. I want to ask you just a couple fun questions. And these are kind of the just dumb, raw questions. I like to do them because I think they show the authentic side of us. Not that you have not been authentic the whole time. I think you've been great. And I love the vulnerability and just, telling us how it is. But these are fun. So I want to ask you, I'm assuming that you guys have gotten to do a little bit of traveling and moving around with this lifestyle. So where's like the coolest place you guys have gone traveling?
So we have not went that many places, but we have went to Utah, and that was actually for me meeting Andrew Cordle. And basically, I just, it's funny you brought up earlier about how to go about reaching out to people. Do not spam them. I had reached out to him, said, "Hey, watch your show. Love what you're doing. I'd love to have an opportunity." That's how I got on that show. So it wasn't by spamming him. I sent him a video message. Okay.
And you said something. I love your show. There's honestness. You know what? I had Shemaine Nugent on my show, and I kind of did the same thing. Like there's a studio here in Dallas that the guy that owns it used to be a reporter on TV. And so I know him. I've met him because I went on somebody's podcast. It was at that show and I got introduced to somebody else. And as you know, everything's about networking. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So I've networked my way through there. So I met him. Well, I ended up finding out that she was doing a lot of holistic, like I don't know if they were on MTV Cribs, and she had talked about mold in her house and how they were sick and they discovered mold in the house and all that. So I went on her site because I looked at what she was doing, and she was all about health, holistic health. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want her on my show. So I reached out to her, and it was kind of an authentic message like that. Hey, love what you're doing. I saw that you're up at Jeff Crilly's, studio, and I know Jeff and Casey Hayes and several people. I'd love to get you on my show. Well, it didn't happen right away. But what was funny about that is she wrote me back and said, I want you on my show. So I went on hers. I did hers. And then I still had to chase her down a couple times to get her back on mine. But it was always an honest, it was never a just, hey, can I get you on my show? There was the context in there. It always has to be in there, and so anyways, to get back to your thing, you got to go to Utah. You got to be in this awesome podcast. What an experience. Anything you want to add to that? I'm sorry I sabotaged you.
No, you're fine. No, so we did go to Utah, and where I grew up in LJ, Blue Ridge mountain area in Georgia. We have hills and mountains. We have mountains there, right?
Okay.
But the mountains in Utah make the mountains in Georgia look like hills. Yeah. So that was cool. And then whenever I was in college, I did go to North Dakota for a little bit. Okay. So that was a cool experience too. Kind of scary though, because those movies with the long, huge cornfields. Yeah. That's exactly what North Dakota is like.
Okay, very cool. I haven't been to North Dakota. But Children of the
You don't want to go. There's no reason to go there.
Children of the Corn's coming to mind right now. Cornfield. Well, and you guys are still young. You're going to have plenty of places to go and travel. And, and I would say as the kids get bigger too, then you get a little bit of different kind of freedom that you get to be able, you guys are doing the things you need to do now to be able to have those freedoms. And I would say, it's not about we like to have money, but I think it's not always about that. It's really about freedom of choice. It's about not having financial concerns, right? Like it's the freedom to be able to live the life you want to live, so you'll be able to do that. So a favorite book you've read, maybe one that sticks out in your mind.
So favorite book.
Or maybe a mentor that you really do that.
Yeah, I mean, the 10X rule by Grant Cardone, and that's probably the one that I, applied the most to my life. But also, whenever I was first starting, there was a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
Yeah.
Can't think of the author.
Heard of it.
But that one is good too, because it kind of breaks down all the beliefs that you've been programmed to believe and like picks them apart. So
cool.
that was
I
a good
love
book.
this question. Helps me get my book list together. And for other people, they need to pick up books, right? All right. What's your favorite guilty pleasure food?
Oh man. I don't know if it's a food. I love Red Bull. I got one right here. I drink those like crazy.
Yeah. Okay, whatever it is, it's your thing, right? And that's your thing. That's why I was saying this. That's a funny question. Last week I did an episode. We got to talking about Monte Cristos at Bennigan's. It went from pizza to Monte Cristos. So, all right. Last question I want to ask you. What is in your Amazon cart? It's my favorite stupid.
Listen. I'm going to show you right now.
You actually have stuff in there. I did this to somebody the other day, and he looked at me like, "You just did not ask me that question."
Listen, I did not plan this.
So funny.
We're pulling up the cart. It's nothing but books.
Books. I look at that. See, and I asked you what book you're. Look at this. You got. I see Mary Kay. You got a lot in there. I've seen I recognize a couple of those. You're awesome.
I'm constantly learning.
You're constantly, if you need more books, just reach out to me. I'll give you more to add to your list. It's so funny. My clients laugh at me because I read a lot too, but I have like core books that when I'm like working with people, I'm like, you need to read this one. You need to check out Mary Kay is one of them. Like read her autobiography. She's also got a book that's really good on people management, like how to deal with your people that you're working with. But like I have these lists of, and one day, one of my girls told me, she says, you always talk about this Stephen Covey. And I'm like, yeah, the 7 Habits of the Highly Effective. You need to read that the moment you get into like high school. Like the moment you can start learning to be like an adult, you need to read that freaking book, And so they laugh at me. I'm like, yeah, because you need to read it.
Yeah. So, what I've started transitioning now is like, I think a lot of people, it's real easy to look at who are the top people, the influencers, gurus right now. And what I've started transitioning and doing, like you see Mary Kay, it's cool that you work there, by the way. Mm-hmm. I've started like, who did those people learn from? Mm-hmm. And now you go back into the 1940s, the 1900s, and you're like, oh, wow. A lot of the information that this guy's talking about is actually in here. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good to go back.
Yeah. It's funny too, because I was in the Mary Kay world for like 22 years. And so I kind of grew up in that. She was such a neat woman, and her story is because she kind of came from humble beginnings too. And, built that whole company up. And I think the values of that company, I talk a lot about that company in my program, the values that she implemented, and that company still follows those same values. They operate that way. And the culture is what keeps a lot of those people still in that space, and so she has a really, really neat story. But yes, a lot of, I think you learn a lot from just, reading these different stories about people that have created these successful businesses. And there's a lot of takeaways. Interesting story, having come from Mary Kay, we heard a lot about Zig Ziglar because Mary Kay and Zig Ziglar worked together a lot. In fact, here's a funny story. So fast forward, I want you to think about this because I was in this space for 22 years. I heard Zig Ziglar all the time. So I network a lot now. Like I know a lot of people here, and I tell people like, usually I'm the person that the other day, like I'm doing a podcast, and while I'm listening to this guy, I'm like, I got 2 people I need to connect you with, like 2 people right now. But it's how my brain works. Cause I'm like always thinking, how can I, so I go to this networking event, and then I run into this guy, and he actually was like Zig Ziglar's like right-hand man. He traveled all over the world with Zig Ziglar and, would train with him. And he was telling me all these funny stories. And then he told me the story about how Zig Ziglar and Mary Kay went on the Phil Donahue show. So think way back in the 80s. And Mary Kay sold Phil Donahue like 3 times on why he needed to sign up to be a consultant with Mary Kay. The funny thing is that I had this guy on my podcast. I actually did a presentation with this guy. And it was so funny because after I did the presentation, it wasn't in a large thing, but it was a group of entrepreneurs. I had these people came up to me and they were like, oh my gosh, like you held yourself, like you held your place with Brian Flanagan. He has talked like all over the world to massive stages, right? And I made this connection. I was like, who would have ever thought in all those years that I had been in Mary Kay and I'd been hearing about Zig Ziglar and here I am now, speaking with this guy that's been running around with Zig Ziglar for many, many years, speaking all over and to huge stages, and so I think it's so interesting going back to the very beginning of what you were saying about like the people that you come in contact with. We've said so much here about who you know and the journey and like all the people you're going to come in contact with and what you guys are going to do in the next 20, 30 years, like the people that are going to come into your life between now and then. So there's just so much coolness to this. And definitely I would tell everybody reading is where I made my biggest shift in my stuff. It was like the catalyst for how I moved into where to what I'm doing now. And so I love reading. I'm glad that you got books in there and they're all good and all the stories are good. I was going somewhere with all of that. It was just
that's awesome that you basically, what I would say, you embodied Mary Kay and spoke next to, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because we get up there to train and we're both talking the same language because Mary Kay and Zig Ziglar had worked together. And so he had been with Zig Ziglar for 27 years. I was with Mary Kay for 22, almost 23. And so we were like, the languaging was really kind of the same languaging, and so, yeah, I just think it's cool how life works out and this journey that we're on that we never really arrive, but you never know. Like when you said in the very beginning, if you'd asked yourself 5 years from ago, if you'd be where you are today, you had no idea. You know what I'm saying? You have no idea where you're going to be 5. You know where you're going, but you don't know what's going to happen in the next 5. Like,
I don't know.
Who's going to cross your path in that time?
Yeah.
Good stuff, Kamron. So if our audience wants to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about you, your story, what you're up to, Folly, where do we want to send them?
Yeah, all my socials is at Kamron Engler. And if you want to check out my website, it's theengler.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, this has been great. I know we went a little longer than I'd planned to, but you're awesome. Love your story. Love what you're doing. Keep inspiring. Keep kicking butt. Stay focused. You're doing good things.
Thank you. You too. You too. This has been great. I like this interview. This is my favorite interview so far.
We have fun. I always have fun. That's the purpose. I want you to walk out of here and have a good time. That is the goal always. So we do want to say to our audience, of course, if you enjoy our show, go check us out on the Apple, wherever you follow your podcast, and then hit that subscribe button on YouTube so we can keep sharing these incredible stories. And with that, I will say the same parting thought, Kamron, same thing. I'm hoping it's going to stick with somebody eventually. So in order to live the extraordinary, you have to start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. We will see you next time.